we thought there was good news. It's temporary. Right now, the nation is bracing for a rush at the border still once Title 42 ends. The policy was set to end tomorrow. Then Chief Justice John Roberts stepped in, temporarily putting that on hold. The Biden administration has until 5 p.m. Eastern today to file a response. The White House says it has dispatched 23,000 Border Patrol agents and 1,000 processing coordinators to the southern border, while the Texas National Guard deployed an additional 400 troops to El Paso, where border agents remain overwhelmed by the number of people flooding into America, most of them unvetted at this point. This is new video showing a large group of people sleeping on the ground at the city's airport, waiting for their flights. So we process them, and I put that in quotes because our men and women are overwhelmed, and then they fan all over the country. Those are just the people that we know about. ICE has actually lost track of 150,000 illegal immigrants, and now they're learning about more and how that happened. Well, there are already 1 million of them here. Fox News Digital, just obtained ICE training videos from November 21 to February 22, and they reveal the agency was not able to keep tabs on people because of the Biden administration's relaxed no processing immigration policy.
Operation Horizon, the background on this, for you guys that may be new to it, over the summer, we had well over 150,000 folks come in. They were issued a piece of paper that said, go find somebody in ICE. And that was pretty much it. So there was no processing. I know this isn't something that you guys asked for. And I can assure you that no one in the criminal alien program asked for it either.
Well, we like all the information we can get. Just imagine how much worse it will be if Title 42 ends and the floodgates are open. And by the way, if you start to tell the truth about things being open at the border, the White House says that you're helping the smugglers and you're against America.
Imagine.
They hate the truth.
Imagine, because as if the people coming to this country are sitting around watching cable news all day. They're not coming because we're talking on cable. They're coming because we're letting them in. Joe Biden has turned this country into the college bar that doesn't check ID. Do you remember when you were a young kid and the word got out that there was this one bar that wasn't enforcing ID procedures, so everybody started showing up? That's where we are. And there's like a real callous indifference, almost a sociopathic indifference to the suffering they're creating at the border. Because number one, it is a humanitarian crisis when you talk about what's happening to the women crossing the border. Number two, you talk about fentanyl becoming the leading cause of adult death in this country. But number three, this completely undermines their public health initiatives as it pertains to COVID. I don't want to hear a word about getting vaxxed and boosted and wearing a mask if we're taking a COVID screening mechanism, a disease screening mechanism, and we're throwing it to the side. It undermines everything they do. And Biden, shame on him, won't even go to the border because he doesn't want to draw attention to the crisis. Although in his defense, when they asked him to make a run for the border, he did think they meant Taco Bell. And he was like, yeah, Joe won't let me have that. So here we are.
Tammy. Wow, there was a lot there.
He has no opinion.
No.
Once again, the guy has no opinion.
Yeah.
So, but part of the COVID argument that you're making is so excellent because that's still where we are. We're being told now. You see areas that are considering, temporary mandated lockdowns or mask wearing. I should say more mask wearing than lockdowns at this point. But I mean, we still are in some sort of an emergency with flu, RSV. What are they calling it? The tridemic? Yeah. I mean, we have a doctor on the couch here.
Yeah, and there's some reports that I'm sure Dr. Nicole can speak to this as well, that in fact the flu season is kind of average, like what it was before the pandemic. It's not this monster thing that has been reported. But beyond that, it's not just COVID. We had this issue before. Zika, measles, tuberculosis, the plague. That there's a whole host of other things, but we're most in danger, as we were in the summer and the fall of 2019, when we don't know what's happening. So we know these things, we're prepared for them, we have tests, we know to look. The issue becomes, what don't we know? And that is just like we didn't know about Zika. And that was and is a horrible thing that now has moved from South America up into America, affecting fetuses, affecting children, deforming. Remember, it affected the head of the little babies. It was horrible things going on. The plague is out there. It is. I mean, if we catch it,
it always exists on the planet.
Yeah, it always exists, and we can deal with it. But that's what Title 42 was for. And it's not just a surge that's going to happen and is happening in this week. That's been the incentive for months. And And so it is this backup and the buildup. And those 1,000 processors, which you talked about in your intro, are really just to process them. There's nothing that's going to be sent to stop this.
So more of them will come, Kennedy, and more of them will be allowed to stay because they're bringing in processors.
Yes, so they have their big rubber stamps. That's exciting. The asylum process takes about 5 years, and those are under good circumstances. Those are under normal circumstances. But the numbers that we've seen are very abnormal. They're 2 and 3 times higher than anything we've ever seen. So it's impossible, even if you have a third more processors than you had before, the entire system is overwhelmed. It is a massive failure of government on every single level. Not only the president, who is gaslighting and lying to anyone who will ask about this, that's himself or through his press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre, but that's also the abdication of responsibility from Congress and every other branch of government that has just washed their hands of this problem, where you have, we saw yesterday, 500 people sleeping in a room that should take 100
That's right.
with one bathroom. So they hate people. They hate people who are terrified and in pain, and they're doing nothing to help them except lying and saying, yeah, the border's secure and the president is working.
Well, and then they try to cancel us if we tell the truth about it.
Yep.
I mean, that's what that is. That's furthering the censorship that we see on the social platform.
Right. And to
they
add
just
to
want to just
Tammy's
straight
list,
up do it to our faces.
They bring bed bugs, lice, consumption, and the vapors.
So, Tammy, it's interesting what you were saying, because Title 42 did so much more. I want to get to Art Del Cueto last hour on the Faulkner Focus. Let's watch.
The border is pretty much wide open, and there seems to be no consequences for individuals entering the United States right now. This administration needs to realize that it's a problem not just for their own political agenda, but it's a problem for every single American in this country. It's going to take this government, the administration, to actually start taking care of the people, actually put aside their hatred for the last administration, and realize that they're doing more harm to Americans right now.
That's where I want to go with you, Dr. Nicole Saphier. When you hate the last guy enough to want to hurt the future of America, where are you?
Well, I want to go back to what you started with, talking about what the press secretary said last week. And she said that anybody who is saying there's chaos at the border, or there will be chaos with the removal of Title 42, or saying that the border is open, that you are essentially working for smugglers. You are an agent of misinformation. What an important thing to say, and how disrespectful that is to our Border Patrol, to the civilians whose lives have been upended because of the failure of government and the chaos that is happening at the border. They have zero respect for the American people, and their condescension is just so permeable, and you can just tangible. It is awful what is happening. And with Title 42 right now, just about anyone other than Mexicans can come in through our border seeking asylum, whether they really need asylum or not. If Title 42 is removed, then everyone, including the 2 million Mexicans who were denied entry over the last 2 years,
under Title 42,
are then able to come. The Democrats have had complete governmental control for the last 2 years. They've done absolutely nothing. It is a crisis at the border now, and the Republicans absolutely need to step up and do something, because it is a crisis at the border.
All right, I do want to get to this, because Democrats are starting to speak out, and William Hurd, we know, is a congressman from Texas formerly. He had a lot to say. He was tweeting this yesterday. Obama deported 3 million more folks than Trump. He didn't use Title 42. The Biden administration can increase expedited removals, the fancy term for deporting, using existing, actually it's Title 8. He didn't get that right here, by authorities. The tool isn't the issue. It's the acknowledgement of the crisis and the will to enforce our laws. Title 8, Kennedy, allows for so much more in the lines of deportation. You can do it for criminal activity. I mean, this is a long list. That was always there. So they could get away with 42 and then reflexively go right to something even more powerful. Do you think they'll do it?
No, they won't do it. And they also won't outline who they want in this country and who they want to stay out of this country. And those are two very important lists, because we want people here who are going to work hard, add to the economy, make the country better. We don't want people who are going to commit violent crimes, who are engaged in gang activity, and who are going to actively hurt people and make the country worse. And you have to be very clear about who you want and who you don't.
I don't know how you do that with these numbers. Last thought, Jimmy.
Well, no, the K train is right. I mean, there's this real indifference to the well-being of everyone on every side of this. Women coming into this country are getting sexually assaulted about 30% of the time if they're coming in illegally. People on this side of the border are being killed. But in their instance, the politics are always more important than the people. So they're not worried about protecting humans. They're worried about protecting themselves.
And the missing children.
Yeah.
We've become a participant in the trafficking of children who are now missing and will never be found in the midst of this country. And let me
Shame
on us. We have a responsibility
to stop
this.
And to her point about children, the Democratic Party shut down the government over what we called kids in cages under Trump. Okay, we have 10 times as many under Biden.
Those pictures were 2014.
And they were taken under Obama. The cages were built under Obama. But that's the point. It's all garbage. Shame on them.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.